Let's get started with actually writing a resume here. Now, first thing, you might want to decide whether you want to start with a template or whether you want to start from scratch. A template will have the layout all done for you, so if you feel like you don't know how to make things look good on the page or you want a little guidance, then absolutely feel free to use one. If you're within Docs itself, you click on this thing right here that says Template Gallery and scroll down, you can find the resume templates. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here that are just built in, and you're free to use any of those, although I would warn you away from the second one here. You're also free to look online and find templates there. Just make sure, well, unless you want to pay money, make sure that you find one that's free, because sometimes you'll find a site that leads you through the process, and then before you can actually download the finished product, you have to pay some money. So I like free. Now, a template, again, is really useful if you don't know how to make things look good. Okay, the disadvantage of a template is that, first of all, anyone else use that template, your resume is going to look the exact same. And if it's a popular template, then it's going to feel very cookie cutter. Okay, the second disadvantage, and let me pull up this template right here, the one that I don't particularly care for. Depending on how the template was made, it may be difficult to change the template to suit your purposes. So in this case, this template assumes you've got a lot to say here, and so it tucks your skills over here. And if you don't have a lot to say here, then it doesn't work for your skills to be over here, because you end up with a blank spot here, and then you have a lot of stuff crammed here. Now, if you wanted to try and manipulate that, the problem would be that this was made in a table. And if you run your cursor along here, you can see how your cursor turns to the little arrow thing that says, hey, there's a table line here. Now, if you know how to use a table, then no problem. You know how to manipulate the elements here. But if you don't, then the minute you try and move things around, you're going to run into trouble. So again, template is a great place to start. Feel free to do that, and feel free to find a nice one online rather than just the 5 that are here. Now I'm going to go ahead and just start a new file from scratch. I know we live in the age of auto-saving, but I think it's a good idea to give your document a logical title here. So I'm going to call mine Lam Lee resume, and I'm going to just go ahead and put a date on it. Can you believe it's 2021? Now, if you're doing, you're applying to multiple companies, then you might make different copies of your resume, one for each company, so you can adjust it, to meet the particular requirements of that company, in which case you may end up with several documents, and it's always nice that they've got a name that makes it easy to find the one that you want. Let's face it, Docs is not a great layout program. I can usually get done in it what I want if I fool around. And what I'll do at some point is I'll just do a resume search, do like an image search here, and I'll look for some resumes that look really good to me, and I'll try and mimic that. So I think that I could mimic, say, this one here. If I used a table, I think I could probably mimic that one, again, using a table. So I'll play with my layout now, or later. For now, I'm just going to get some information on the page. Okay, first thing I want to do is put my name and my contact information. So if you press Control-Shift-E, that centers it. Well, I may not center later, but just for starters. And I'm going to put my phone number, my address, and my email. So I'll start, I guess, with my address. Since we want our punctuation to be perfect, let's pause and talk about address punctuation. If you're putting your address on one line like I've done here, you want a comma between the street and the city, between the city and the state, not between the state and the zip code. Now, if you want, you could stack them on top of each other like this, in which case that comma goes away after the street, and you'll keep the comma between the city and the state. Now, if you want to write out Ohio, you can. If you use the postal abbreviation, remember it's 2 capital letters there, an O and an H. And whatever you choose, stick with it. You just want to be consistent. I will use the term consistent a lot. Consistent, consistent, consistent. We keep everything consistent. Okay, I'm going to put my phone number under there. And then let's, again, talk about formatting of phone numbers. If you want to put that area code in parentheses, feel free. But if you do that, you do not need a hyphen here. So either use straight hyphens or use parentheses. Don't try to double up on the parentheses and the hyphen. Or if you want to be like sort of foreign and cool, you could put little dots like that. But I'm just go straight hyphens, and I'm going to keep that consistent throughout. Consistent, consistent, consistent. Okay, and I'm going to put my email address here. And you can go ahead and use your school email if you'd like, but remember that it goes away after you graduate. So if you've got a personal email, great, use that. Your call. I'm not going to email through you through what I see on this resume. Now, bear in mind, if your personal email is a little silly because you made it back when you were 12 or maybe last year because you were just feeling like you wanted to be bad or something, like make sure it's a bland, generic, professional email, like yourname@gmail.com or something. No loves gin and poker or naked babe 2000, like none of that. The way I arrange this information, I'm going to put it up top. I'm going to make it visible, and I'm going to make sure. Whoops, hate having hyperlinks on a page there. I'm going to make sure my name is a little bigger because that's just like the one design element here. Our goal here is to fill our page but not go over the page. So we can format to make things expanded. We can format to make things slimmer. So you can see right here the way I formatted this, it's expanded. I've taken 4 lines to give this information. Now I could compress it and make it take 1 line, and let's put like a little line there. I went to insert special characters and I'm putting a line in. Just to separate those sections, then I'll put another one in. There's the bell. So you see how I can take that same information, I can put it on 1 line. So again, we want to fill the page. We don't want to go over the page at this point. Later on, when you got lots of experience, you can go over that page. And I can play with my formatting to make it fit what I need. I could even, if I want to, this is the funnest part, right, is playing with formatting. At some point, maybe what I'll even do is I'll just insert a little table here with 2 columns. And then I can pop my name in this side and pop my contact information on this side. And of course, rearrange that to make it fit. And then I can go through and I can turn off the lines of the table here. So just make them white or set them to 0. And again, that's another way that I could potentially compress this and give a little design element. For now, though, again, I'll just keep it looking like that. We've got lots of potential sections for this thing. Let's talk about what's going to come first. You can put whatever you want first that's going to sell you for that position, be it your career experience, be it your education, be it your credentials. One thing that you might put up front, though, is something that lets the person looking at the interview know a little bit about you and also about that particular job that you want. So a professional profile or a professional career summary. You could also use an objective if you want. They're super old-fashioned, but they do have the benefit of letting the potential employer know what job you want. So an objective would be like seeking part-time employment as an auto mechanic or something. Let's go ahead and do this the more modern way and put a little career summary up here. If you do a quick search of career summary for resume or profile for resume, you'll find lots of websites with great examples. So here's one website I pulled up, and I'm going to just read you a couple of examples. Here's a server resume summary. Dependable and friendly servers with over 3 years of experience waiting on guests at ABC Restaurant. Eager to join DEF Restaurant to offer its guests exquisite dining experience. Served up to 80 guests nightly and made sure all the dishes were delivered in a timely manner. Now here's one for an engineering resume. Ingenious and determined mechanical engineer with over 10 years of experience. Seeks to use first-class production design and process skills to push forward manufacturing excellence at ABC Incorporated. Boosted production efficiency by 25% at DEF Incorporated and consistently delivered customer needs at over 20% under budget. Here's a little color-coded version. Start with an adjective that describes you, then give your job title, then give your experience, then give the company name and what you want to do with that company, and then some kind of achievement, something that shows that you got the stuff. Okay, self-motivated and cheerful customer servant professional with 2+ years of experience helping customers navigate websites and resolving product and service issues. Eager to support BookMe and building an impeccable online reputation by providing top-class customer support. Received 98.9% positive ratings at GHI Incorporated, where customer retention from my regular call-ins was 25% above the company average. Now, if you can actually give some kind of really concrete evidence, like a number or the name of an award you received or a certification you have, then that's a great thing to add in there. Now, this website has a nice little template, which I actually liked better than what I normally say. So I've gone ahead and just copied it over here into my resume page. It goes like this. You're going to put an adjective, your job title, your experience. eager to support or help or assist the company name with whatever it is you want to help them achieve, how you want to do it, and then your key achievements. Now, what I typically would say is, right, who you are, what you're good at, what you want, what you have to offer. And you might use phrases like dedicated to or skilled at or possess a proven track record in, blah, 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 possess a passion for, successful at, blah, blah, blah. Now, before we go ahead and write these things, I just want to remind you, though, that we are talking about something that's a marketing tool. You're marketing yourself for a particular job, and you may change this profile or this career summary to suit different companies' needs. So I'm a teacher, and if I were searching for another job in teaching, my first impulse would be, well, what am I doing now? What do I do well? And to write the summary based on that. But what I ought to do is look at a job posting and write my summary based on what I see there. So I've gone ahead and I've just gone on Indeed and I searched for English teacher there. And there weren't a lot of jobs that I was too interested, but I thought this one looked interesting. This is a job for a middle school English teacher in Columbus, Ohio. And when I look through the posting, I see that this is a school that teaches refugees. So these are children, some of them who are survivors of war. Probably many of them don't speak English as a first language, and many of them are probably below grade level. So this is a job that is going to require a particular skill set. And when I write my summary, I need to highlight the skills I have that apply to this particular task. So normally I wouldn't mention it in a career summary, but in this case, I would probably mention the fact that I have 3 years of teaching English as a foreign language. I mean, that would be relevant here. So take a look back at the job posting you've been looking at. Okay, read through it, and then go back to your resume and let's write a career summary. So I'm going to go here and just going to write summary or career summary. That'll be my section heading. And then I'm going to start out with an adjective that describes me. And this is the part, I find these are actually really super hard to write. It's hard sometimes to come up with something positive to say about yourself, or at least it is for me, because you think, oh, I try to do that, but do I really succeed? All right, so what do I do well as a teacher? I think I'm pretty hardworking. I know that's true. I'm going to write dedicated. I think that is, I put in a lot of time over break, so that was dedication. Dedicated educator with 10 plus years of experience in the secondary classroom, and 3. And again, normally I wouldn't put this into a professional summary because it wouldn't be relevant. But if I were applying to that particular middle school that's dealing with students who maybe English is not their native language, then this would be more relevant. 3 years teaching English as a foreign language. I worked in Korea for a few years. Okay, then I might think of something that I'm good at, think of something that I do well that applies to that job, or I could follow the little pattern here from the website I just looked at, which was eager to maybe collaborate with the staff at Fuji's Academy. Make sure you spell the company name right? To support students in developing language and critical thinking skills. And I could put how through developing standards-based lessons plans that are differentiated to meet individual needs. Or I could just stop right here. Okay, and then I might think about some kind of achievement I have. Maybe I've earned some good ratings on my evaluations. Maybe I've had some success with a particular type of student, something like that. But I'm going to stop here because, again, this is really awkward to do in front of students. Now let's try this one more time, and let me do this as if I were a student. So let's say that you are a medical assistant, okay, or you're applying for a medical assistant job. So think of something that describes you. Maybe you're very compassionate. Maybe you're very meticulous. Maybe you're a great leader, a great team player. The wonderful thing is that people have lots of different personalities, and that's a good thing because it means everybody has something positive that they can bring to the table, and those positive qualities can be really complementary. We can fill in each other's gaps. So here's my student sample here: compassionate medical assistant in training, or perhaps I could say medical assistant student with, I could put a year of clinical experience, or do you guys get clinical experience in medical assisting? See, look, I'm betraying my ignorance right here. Maybe you just put, again, a skill there: dedicated to providing warm patient-centered care. skilled at using Microsoft Office products and keeping meticulous patient records, and then maybe you've received some kind of good test score or rating or something, then you could receive blah, blah, blah rating there. Okay, now the most useful thing will be to look at some examples before you write your own. And if the examples that I just gave here were not enough, just Google career summary for resume or profile for resume and look at a few. Or you can just fill in the blanks here. Adjective, describing you, what you are, your job title, and how much experience you have. And then you could put eager to support such and such company doing such and such in such a way. And then put something you've achieved. Or again, you could think who you are, what you're good at, what you have to offer. Let's go ahead and tackle the education section next. Now, this doesn't need to be the next section on your resume, but it can be. And since you guys are in school, let's just get this one taken care of. So I'm going to write education here. That'll be my section heading. And when I'm done with this, I'll go back and make those section headings stand out a little bit better to make this easier to scan. At this point, you're going to put high school. You don't need to worry about middle school. If you go to college, then high school will drop off. And if you've been in the career field a long time, and then high school may drop off. Okay, but it's typical to give the name of the place you went, the city and the state, and the dates you attended. Some people give the full address, but as far as I'm concerned, city and state is enough and it's fine. If you want to use someone from school in your references list, at that point you can give the full address. So I am going to write this as if I were a CTEC student. So I'm going to write the name of the school, which is Career and Technology Education Centers, Public and County. Or you could just write CTEC, but I'm going to write the whole thing out. And it's such a doggone long name. Now then, I'm going to just put underneath that Newark, Ohio, or you could use the postal abbreviation. Either way is fine. And then we need the dates there. So I could put the dates right underneath. But this is where I talked about how you can format to expand or format to compress. So if I need the space later, then what I'll do is I'll just put all of those things on one line. I'll kind of compress them together so that it takes up less space. So you can put when you started attending here. So that would have been, when did we start? August of 2020. Or you could write August 2020 and actually write it out. It doesn't matter. Just keep it consistent, whatever you choose. And then you can write a little through the present. Or if you want, you could put your expected graduation. So you could put 5, when do you guys graduate? 2022? You could put something like this, expected graduation, if you'd like. Either one makes sense. You're still here now, or you can put when you expect to graduate. I think I'll just put through the present. What you do with the spacing around, currently I've got a hyphen. You know, this is just because I'm insane and no one else in the world cares about it unless they do like they're a professional typesetter or something. But I'm going to go ahead and look up an N dash. I'm going to put an N dash in there instead. Okay, but however you choose to do the little through bar, just make it consistent whether you use a space on each side or not. It doesn't matter. Just keep it consistent throughout. Okay, and actually, you know what I'm going to do right now, just for the sake of doing it, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it on the same line here, and I'm going to show you how to insert a tab stop, just so you can learn a little word processing stuff here if you'd like. So every time you press the tab key, the standard is to take you across that ruler up there 1/2 inch. And if your ruler's not showing, go to View, click Show Ruler so that ruler's on. Now what you can do is you can actually insert a tab stop so that if you press tab, it'll make it go right to that tab stop. So I'm going to go right here to the end of my line here as close as I can get it to the margin. And I'm going to click Add Right Tab Stop. And then maybe I'll take that and drag that to the end of the line right there on the margin. Now when I press tab, it's going to line it up right here on that end line. So this is, you don't have to insert a tab stop. If you want, you can do just hit tab, 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 tab till you get it where you want it. But you want to make sure you're lining things up so they look like they belong. So either line them up on the right or line them up on the left. It doesn't matter. Now, if you want to get rid of that tab stop, you can just grab it and just pull it out and it'll be gone. I'm going to go ahead and keep that in there. Now you're going to want to list some of the details of your education. So at this point, you might list your program. You might list your GPA if it's good. And if it's relevant, this could also be a place where you put some of the stuff that you've done in lab. If you've done some projects or worked on some things, you could put these right here with the education section. Now, this is where you use your own logic and do what makes sense for you, because if you've done some projects or worked on some stuff in labs, then those things may actually fit better into a different section. Like, again, maybe you have an experience section or a project section. Again, you make the judgment call as far as what makes sense for you. So I'm going to pretend here, let's say that I'm in the digital design and interactive media program. I put the name of the program here in italics to make it stand up, and maybe that's not the best thing to do. Maybe I'll change that later. Maybe I'll actually add a little color or something. At this point, let me go ahead and instead of italicizing it, let me go ahead and like put a little bullet point there maybe. Then I can put my GPA here as well. I'm going to give myself a 4.0. And maybe you've taken some relevant coursework or some college coursework. You could add that here. I know some of you through your programs take some college classes. As I said before, this could be a place where you put some details relevant to your program, or you could save that for a different section later. I don't know, honors chemistry has to do with that, but at this point, I'm just trying to show I'm well-rounded. Now again, you can format to compress, you can format to expand, and if I need the room later, just put those on the same line like that. If you'd like, you could also put your home school here. So let's say I went to Granville High School. And same thing here in City State. Keep it consistent. And then I'll put my date over here. And here's again where you make that judgment call. You're going to get your diploma from them. So you could put that you're there till May, or you could just put the dates you were actually physically present in the school. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a tab stop again. So I go up here to my ruler. I click here as far as I can get it to the edge. Click add right tab stop. And then I'm going to just drag that here. And then when I press tab, it'll take me right there. This is where like I have to, what the heck did you guys start freshman year? I don't know, was it 2018 maybe? Through 5, 2020? And again, you could put some of the details there from your homeschool if you'd like, or if not, you don't have to, or you can leave your homeschool off. It's up to you. Fill your page, don't go over. That'll work for now. So we've got our summary, we've got our education here. And now let's move on to work experience. If you've got a job, you can format the job the same way you did for education. So let's say you've worked at Walmart. Again, put the city and state. Maybe you worked at Walmart and Heath. And then put the dates you're there. Actually, my tab stop is already built in because I pressed enter. So the tab stop's already there. I guess I didn't need to put it in a second time. Okay, and for your jobs, let's say you started in February of 2020 and you're still working there. I'm going to have to go through and make sure all these little guys are end dashes. But don't worry about that, guys. A hyphen's fine. A hyphen's fine. I'm just a nerdy English teacher. I got to use my end dash. So for your job, you do want to put your job title. So let's say you're a cashier. And you could put it here on a separate line, or you could actually put it maybe up here. That might be appropriate. Walmart cashier. And there are different ways to format these. So if you look at some resumes, you can see some different options. You want to give the details of the job that you're working at or the job that you've had recently so that someone looking through this knows what you did. But again, your goal is not really to let them know exactly what you did. I mean, people know what a cashier does, right? So you're not going to say scanned customers' groceries and bagged them. Instead, what you're doing is thinking about the job and what skills you have that are transferable to another job, or things you've done that show you can handle responsibility, that you deal with people, that you've got soft skills. So if I worked as a cashier, I'm thinking, what's transferable here? Well, I provided courteous and efficient customer service. That's important because most jobs you have to deal with people. Okay, maybe you trained and assisted new employees. Being able to train people, that's a skill that could be applicable in another job. Perhaps you handle cash with high accuracy and you didn't make any errors. Well, that's potentially a transferable skill for another job. Perhaps in your job as a cashier, there were times where there was like total rush peak and you were able to keep cool under pressure and do the job, right? So again, you're thinking, what did I do here that's a transferable skill? What did I do here that shows responsibility? So you're going to phrase those things, not as full sentences, but as sentence fragments, and you're going to start with a verb, either present tense if you're still doing it or past tense if you're done with it. So maybe you say something like, provide courteous, efficient customer service And I don't know, how many customers would you deal with in a shift? I'm just going to say 200 plus customers per shift. Handled cash transactions, high accuracy, and maybe you were awarded Employee of the Month 2 times. At some point, when you've got more career experience, then the jobs that you have now will probably drop off, unless what you're doing now is relevant to what you want to be doing. But for now, you put them on there to show you can hold a job, that you can handle responsibility, that you can show up. Now, let's say you had a job and you worked it like 2 weeks, and the people there didn't like you, and you're okay to leave those jobs off. This is something where you're putting positive stuff about you. Okay, now let's say you had some different work. Maybe in a summer you did babysitting or something. So you could put something like childcare. There's no company name for that. Probably it was yourself, but you could still put the place. So maybe Newark area, and then put the dates you did it. And if it's something that was just then, you could put seasonal if you'd like, just to indicate that that's the reason that you were only doing it for the summer. Or you could put the actual dates. So maybe you did it from June through August. Okay, and then you can go through and again, think, what did I do here that shows responsibility? What did I do here that's a transferable skill? Responsible for the care of such and such children, provided engaging activities for them to do, kept children safe. So you're thinking of strong verbs to start with and writing in those sentence fragments. Let's say that you've never actually had any paid work experience, which would have been the case for me at that age. When I was a junior. I don't think I got a real job until summer of junior year, although I'd done some babysitting. Okay, what you can do is put a section called experience or related experience. And you can put some of the things you've done that are relevant to the job you want, even if they weren't paid experience. Let's say that you're in the automotive field and you've restored cars. It's a hobby you have that you do with your father or something. Okay, well, that's something you could list here as experience that relates to automotive care. If it makes sense, you can format it the same way as the jobs above, where you put the city and state and the place, or you could simply put vintage car restoration, the dates, and then put the details of what you did there, maybe bullet pointed. So repaired a Chevrolet, an Eldorado, definitely. Okay, to vintage state, overhauled such and such and such and such. Just put the detail again, using not full sentences, but sentence fragments starting with that verb. Repaired, restored, redeemed. Okay, maybe you built something else. Now I call this experience, but it could very well be called projects if you like. So if you've done several projects, like let's say you're in digital design and interactive media, and you've created various things, you could put designed such and such for so-and-so, created such and such for such and such. So again, these categories that you put in your resume are up to you, so you can tailor the categories to fit the experience you want. Now again, if you don't have paid experience, you still have lab experience. And so you can treat that lab experience here as a job depending on what lab you're in. Because in some of the labs, what you're doing is basically the equivalent of a job. That's what you're going to be there. So perhaps you put something like CTEC Automotive Lab. And then you can put the dates. If you want to put city state there, you can do that as well. Of course, I already know where CTEC is because you put that earlier, but just for the sake of consistency, I'll put that on there. Oops, and I lost my tab stop. So let me go ahead and insert that back in. Add right tab stop. Pull it over to the edge. Hit tab. And then I can put 8/2020 through present. Okay, but you can put the details of what you're doing in lab. And this is where it always fails me because I don't know the exact details of what you do in lab. But if you're repair whatever you're doing that your repairs to, or perform maintenance on, might be things you do in lab, so hands-on practice. You can certainly, some of you also are doing ride time or job shadowing. That's also something that could go here. Job shadowing, you could put again the city, the place that you did it, the dates, put that stuff here. Again, in some of the labs, like I'm thinking in particular, culinary, you guys are basically working in a restaurant, right? So you can put CTAC culinary lab and then put some of the stuff you're doing there. Let me do that instead. I know better what you do in culinary than in automotive. Or if you're in the preschool, again, you're doing a job. Maybe something like prepare lunch daily for how many students do we have at lunch? Maybe 100 students. You practice sanitation, such and such. You cook to high volume. You run like the deli, hot prep. I don't know what these stations are called, blah, 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 blah stations. Okay, at any rate, the point here is even if you haven't worked a paying job, some of the stuff you're doing in lab could show in your resume in an experience section, if that makes sense for what you're doing. There are a couple more sections we might put on here. So we might have a skills section where today it'd be a key competency section or something like that, if that sounds better to you than skills. You might also have an activities section if you're engaged in other activities. Again, these are the kind of things where at this point, it's okay to put those on there to show you're well-rounded. At some point in your later career, you're not going to put your hobbies on your resume, but okay, you might also have an awards section, and you might have a certification section. So you can put over whatever sections on are going to make sense to you for what you have. Now for skills, you can think about your trade-specific skills, which you guys are developing in lab. You can also think about soft skills. So those are things like being able to communicate effectively or having a good work ethic, things like that. Now with your skills, it's kind of nice to not lump them randomly into sections. You can kind of divide them up. Now, if you're making your resume and you're thinking about your current program that you're in, then when it comes to thinking of skills, here's a useful thing that you might do. So I'll just take you through this process. I'm going to open up a new tab and I'm going to go to c-tech.edu, the school website, and then I'm going to click right here on high school and go to high school programs. And if you look here, all the different programs are listed, so you can find your program here. So let's say we go to digital design and interactive media. If you scroll down here, this should have a list of topics from your junior year and your senior year. And then it should also give you a link to some industry credentials. So if you look through these skills, these are skills that some of which you already have and some of which you will have. And these can go right in your resume in the skills section. Now, granted, these are phrased as topics, like topics of study, not a skill. So if you write basics of the creative process and critiques, maybe that's something you want to rephrase so it sounds more like a skill than like a topic. So if you want, feel free to just copy and paste those onto your resume and then tinker with them a little bit. And normally I'm not going to tell you to copy and paste, but if you do that, go ahead and paste without formatting. And then that way it'll match the format you already have in here. And then again, you can go ahead and tinker with these, make sure that everything's phrased the way you want it phrased, and then certain things maybe you can cut. And if there are certain things that you feel redundant, again, feel free to trim, cut, it's all good. And if there's skills you don't have yet, then feel free to put expected and when you expect to get them. So it's a skill you're expecting to get like 2 years, and that's not cool. But if you're expected, you should get it by spring or something, you can put that. It kind of depends on whether you're planning to use this resume tomorrow or you're planning to use it in a year. Because if you're planning to use it in a year, then great, you should have the skill by the time you use it. If you're planning to use it tomorrow, be honest about which of the skills that you actually have here. Okay, so I can go through again, make sure it's formatted correctly. I've got my spacing all, tinker with my language, and I can pop those skills on there. Now, these skills, it's kind of a little long here. One thing you can do is highlight it, and then you can go over here to Format and to Columns, and then click on two, and you can put them into columns. That's sometimes a way to buy some space. But we'll save the formatting for later. Going back to the website, if you look for industry credentials, then if there's something you've already got, absolutely put it on there. If it's something you're going to get pretty soon, you can put it in, just put expected and the date that you expect to get it. So let's say you're going to get CPR in spring, then CPR first aid, just put expected spring 2021 or something. And this is a place where you should feel really good about going to a career tech school because it gives you all sorts of cool stuff to put on your resume. In addition to these skills that relate directly to your program, again, you can certainly think about other skills that you may have. So for this program, it's very technology heavy, but for other programs, your program may not be technology heavy, but you can still list it if you've got some skills there. So let's say maybe I break my skills section into technology skills, and I've got, I'm familiar with Microsoft products, or I can use PowerPoint really well. I know how to do video editing. Put them on. Unless you've got so much to say that you can't, you're onto your third page right now. Okay, you might think about, you could call them personal skills or something, and list some of those soft skills. And if you're thinking, well, what are those? Then what you might do is just do a quick search in Google soft skills for resume. And you can pull up some lists. This one just has 10, but there are lists with a lot more here. So communication, teamwork, adaptability, problem solving. These are things you can put on your resume. Now, I've got to say, though, that if someone just lists a bunch of words like leadership, problem solving, communication, I don't really believe in those skills. What you want to do is back it up. So give some example of something that genuinely shows communication or something that genuinely shows leadership. So if I write leadership, then I could write elected president of FFA group 2 times or something. What I can also do is be really specific by what I mean by communication. So for communication, perhaps I could write communication, and then I could write strong verbal and written skills, write clearly with clean grammar. Something so, again, when I say communication, they know that what that means is I can actually write you something that's not going to have a bunch of dumb errors in it. And again, if you put those onto your resume, I do suggest you try and find a way of sort of grouping your skills together so they don't feel random. So you could put little subsection headings in here like design skills, and then personal skills and like that. Now, what you will see sometimes on resumes these days is people will put their skills and they'll put key competencies or something, and they'll give themselves like a little rating on that skill. Feel free to look at some examples and do something like that if you want to get a little more graphic with your resume. Okay, then you can come down here, you can add some activities. So if you were, you played soccer, you're in the marching band, you do some volunteer service with your church, feel free to put those on there. Again, at this point, it shows that you're well-rounded. It shows that you're responsible. And when you describe those things, you can certainly add little descriptions. So let's say you are in the student leadership team, CTech. You could put the dates that you're in there. You could put 2 years if you've been in it for 2 years by the time you're senior, right? You can put a little description of what that involved. So instead of just putting student leadership team, you could say something like, usually, I don't know what your student leadership team is doing this year, but usually led tours of building, presented information. I'm not phrasing these. I need to think about phrasing these in a way that really shows what skills you have. So I know sometimes the SLTs you're going and you're doing presentation to hundreds of students. That's kind of a cool thing, right? That definitely shows you can handle public speaking. Again, so feel free when you write your activities to put that little descriptor. You don't have to put a little descriptor to use that activities as a way to show that you've got certain desirable skills or qualities. And then you can go through, if you got awards, put them there. If you've got certifications, feel free to list them. And at that point, you should have the basics done in your page there.